Hello and welcome to Rotted Reviews. And today I'm going to be I'm cranking out a quick video here. So this is probably going to be a little bit less, not as many clips and so forth. But I just got done watching Horror in the High Desert 2, which I just rented on Amazon Prime. Horror in the High Desert, the original, was a 2021 found footage horror movie that was written and directed by Dutch Marich. And this is his follow-up to that. So the reason that I kind of want to cover this one really quickly and right away is because Horror in the High Desert was a really unique video for my channel. It was kind of just this indie watch that I really wasn't expecting a whole lot from. And I wound up being suitably impressed by the movie itself. And then the video that I made kind of went through two phases. The first of which was it actually did fairly well in the analytics as soon as it came out. And then, as they do, kind of petered out. And then all of a sudden, it blew up. And it took me a little while to kind of figure out why. And apparently what it was it hit some major distribution streaming services. And there was this surge of people that found this movie and watched it about this missing hiker, Gary Hinge, and believed that it was real. One of the things that I loved about the first movie is the fact that it has this kind of documentary style to it that really reminded me a whole lot of Norai the Curse, albeit American and not quite nearly as good. Norai is a very high bar to meet. But nevertheless, it did have that kind of mixed media aspect of it, of found footage, interview documentary style and everything, to kind of just bring it together in a coalesced fashion to make it seem a lot more real. And that was the thing, was people were watching this movie and seeking out more information about this missing hiker of Gary Hinge, thinking that the film was real. And then coming across my video where I reviewed it as a fictional movie, and they were confused. I got so many comments from people saying, wait, this didn't actually happen? So, I think that kind of speaks to as a testament to the quality of the film, that it actually could be passed off as real. That was something that I thought kind of interesting about it, was how grounded it was. So anyway, I've been kind of waiting with bated breath about the sequel, which I've heard about for a while, and I've been wanting to watch Minerva. I knew nothing about it, and like I said, I just got done watching it. So what is this even about? Well, it's a continuation of the original storyline, but not about Gary Hinge himself. It does reference that a few times, but mostly this is about the mysterious elements in the desert where he went missing, following up on a few other missing people, including Minerva. And it kind of follows the same documentary style of sitting down with people, interviewing them, having their voiceovers go over top of found footage, things like that. And what did I think about this one? I just, it was okay. And I think it was honestly a little bit disappointing in a few areas, but also worked rather effectively in others. There was an aspect of this that just felt a little bit more fabricated. Like, I was watching it and I couldn't get the feel that maybe, unlike the first movie, that people would watch this one and assume that maybe it was possibly real and be fooled by it. I just didn't see that happening. Something about it just kind of rang a little bit more false. And I think one of those things was the fact that this movie really didn't lean on that documentary style nearly as much. It had a whole lot of interview voiceovers and so forth, but it actually only showed the people that it was interviewing for maybe a minute or two each, if that. It was actually kind of an odd choice, because this was mostly just found footage with the interviewers talking over it in voiceover. And something about that just was a little bit weird to me. So it would have an entire interview segment where we never even get to see the lady. And then halfway through the movie, then all of a sudden, her story kind of pops up into the forefront. And then we see her for a few minutes, here and there, if that. Or then we'll have somebody that kind of starts out, we'll have 10-second snippet video footage of them sitting down doing the interview style. And then the entire rest of their interview is voiceover throughout the entirety of the movie. We barely ever get a look at them. And I think that that's honestly to the movie's detriment. Moreover, this one was a lot more fractured. While the Gary Hinge story kind of provided a cohesive storyline for the gaps to kind of be filled in and for the people to tell the story, the years after his disappearance to kind of, put the pieces of the puzzle together in a coalesced fashion so that we still had a mystery and still had a bit of a cliffhanger, but, a good storyline. This one was just a whole lot of loose dangling threads that just bounced from one to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other, and it just felt very oddly disjointed and disconnected as a result of that. Moreover, the film didn't really have a very strong sense of escalation. This started out trying to be very spooky. We had the spooky music that was going over top of voiceovers and so on. And I think that a film like this really needs to start out as a bit of a slow burn. I think it needs to have some establishment to it where we have the situation that's being described as, maybe the crime of the missing person or the body that's found or something along those lines, and then start to kind of put the pieces in place of why this is so unusual. Why are we making this documentary about this particular crime? What is going on here? And what are the questions that we've never been able to ask that lead up to this horrific puzzle? But if you just start out with everything being spooky and everything being mysterious and everything being ominous, we don't really get the groundwork laid. And again, when we only have just a few seconds of a snippet of a video of a talking head, we don't get an idea of who the person is that's telling the story in any real fashion. And one of the things that I really loved about the original was not just the fact that they had those talking heads in the documentary style, but that they were acted so well, which was a real surprise for me considering that this was a bit of a low budget indie production. But yeah, the people telling their story about, how they loved Gary and so forth, it was a remarkable performance. And I kind of feel like that was missing in this one, and I really longed for it. As far as the things that did work well about this, I would say that there were some moments in it that actually had some decent found footage, jump scare, creepy scare aspects to it. So while the first one works as both a film and a horror film, I think that this one only works as a horror film. It has some very long, drawn-out, silent sequences of fumbling around in the dark and so forth that really did genuinely put me on edge. And I was, just kind of like right on the edge of my seat, just waiting for something to happen. And it was good and creepy. But as far as any real scares, none of them really felt very earned. And then due to the nature of this being a sequel, we started out kind of in the middle of a story. And not to spoil anything, but this really doesn't end with any kind of real big wrap up resolution. This simply feels like a middle piece of a grander story. And if this was episode 4 of a 10-episode miniseries, fine. But as a film being released, I think that it needs to work not only as part of the series that it's trying to establish, but also on its own. It needs to stand on its own 2 feet as a film entry. And in that, I just don't feel like it succeeded nearly as well as the first movie did. But nevertheless, it's a pretty short watch. It's only a little over an hour long. And if you have a spare Friday night and you just want some good found footage creeps, I think that this is a pretty solid entry. I've seen found footage done a whole lot worse. And also, if you love horror in the high desert, the original movie, this is going to be something that I do recommend you watch because it's not a bad film. And as a follow-up to that, I'm kind of interested to see where this whole series goes. But as a quality horror film that would offer the same level of interest and intrigue that the first movie did, I just don't think it stacks up. Not nearly as much as I really wish it had. So that should about do it for this video. Thank you so much for joining me here. I look forward to seeing you on my next review. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.